Laura, first of all, was a top-notch student in one of my first classes here. She has had some experiences in, I'll call it industry, work, non-academic, very good, that I think are really of interest. She's going to tell you that it's not all roses. Or if it is, it's a lot of prickly primroses in some cases. I don't think I need to give her any more introduction. She's a bubbly personality. I'll take care if you want her. Laura?
Thank you. Thank you, Rob. Thank you for having me in your classroom today. As he said, my name is Dolan Hayes. I graduated from this very program in 2004. I have a bachelor's in ITI. And then I decided to stick around and get my master's in communication here at Sky. I'm here to share with you some interesting tales of leadership. This was by far the best class I took in 5.5 years of school. I was a late bloomer. I went back to school when I was 40 years old, and Dr. Lindrum's class was the #1 class I took. I have two stories to share with you today. One on really abysmal leadership and one on really good leadership. Now, the abysmal story begins back in 1991. Now, I don't think any of you in here remember 1991 very well, maybe except for Dr. Lindrum. But back then,
How about 1941?
True. Back in 1991, I was working for a mid-sized company. Actually, it would be considered a small company. There were only about 20 of us working. The major companies were all computerized. But the personal computer on a desktop was new in 1991. And I worked for a company where we managed trade associations. And in this setting, we had 8 secretaries. I was one of them. Now, I was the youngest by 30 years at least. All the women in this place were in their mid-60s, and there was one in her 80s that were working there. And what was on their desk was an IBM Selectric 2 typewriter. Everyone had one. They were the Cadillac of typewriters. These women worked in this place, this industry, for all their career. They had been there for 30, 40 years some. Well, one fateful Monday morning, we walk in, go to the coffee room, get our coffee, come upstairs, go to the cubicle form, and what do we find? Talk about, everyone stopped dead in their tracks when they turned the corner. There was a personal computer on every desk, and the IBM Selectric typewriters were lined up around the wall, around the room. It was just dead silence. And one woman goes, "How am I going to get my work done sitting on the floor?" We were shocked. Now, I had some experience with computers because the year before my husband and I had opened our practice, we decided computers are not going away. We're going to start the practice on computer, so we never have to go through converting. Well, that was a really good decision, so I was not fearful. And one of the old ladies, or we called them old ladies, everybody was an old lady there except for me, it was the old ladies and Laura. And I had an old lady who worked right across from me, and she was my brave old lady. And she would do anything. You give her a task, boom, she's on it. Well, we are looking at these computers not knowing what to do. Now, back then, there was not Windows. Okay, it was a black screen with a strobing pumpkin-colored DOS character. And that's all it did. Well, the big boss comes running out of his office, and he is like a little boy with a bunch of dandelions to give his mom. He's so proud of himself for bringing computers to the office. And he goes, "Old ladies and Laura, come sit." Everyone gathers around, and he's typing. He goes, "And then you do this, and then you do that, and then you do this again, hit enter." And they're going, "What?" The only word they understood was carrot. That was the only thing that he said. And at the time, they didn't have hard drives. You're putting in the A drive, and putting in the B drive, and they were like, "What? I don't get it. What are you talking about?" Well, he just scampers off to his office like, "See, I trained you. You're trained. I have trained you all." Well, I sat at the computer, and I was able to kind of start figuring things out. And the brave old lady, she's sitting with me, we're trying to figure it out together. And the other ones, by the end of the day, were indeed sitting on the floor with their IBM Selectric typewriters, jumping up, answering the phone, and going back to the floor. This goes on for a week. Little old lady sitting on the floor typing, while the computer's sitting there, strobing. Well, we come back again the following Monday, and the IBM Selectrics are gone, except for one. It was on a cart, and we were told that we could use them, but only for typing envelopes, because at the time the word processing system network was on the computer didn't have a mail merge function, so we couldn't do any labels. We didn't even know what mail merge was at the time. So we could type envelopes, but that was the only thing we were allowed to type. Well, now the productivity hitting the skids. Nothing is happening. Okay, the phones are being answered, but the clients are angry. The clients are not getting their needs met. These old ladies are used to being on top of their game. These women have been doing their jobs for 20, 30, 40 years, and they are good at what they do, very good at what they do. But now they have no resources. They can't get their work done, and they can't explain it to the client. The client doesn't know that there's been a technology change. This goes on, clients start dropping. Clients start going to our competition, who didn't have to worry about this because they had already been on computers and successfully morphed. Well, time marches on. My client remained happy. The brave old lady's clients remained happy because she managed to figure it out. They eventually sent the old ladies for training about 3 weeks into the debacle. But 3 weeks, when you're not taking care of your clients for 3 weeks, your clients don't want to be around you, and they're shopping, and they were shopping. Well, it took about a year, maybe a little bit less than a year. We knew it was circling the drain. I didn't have enough work to do. I had a client left. And eventually, the big boss, not quite as enthusiastic as he had been the year before, comes out of his office and gathers the old ladies and me around and said, okay, here's the deal. I want you to know that the company's probably not going to survive the next board of directors meeting. If you want to look for work elsewhere, I would encourage that. And then they messaged it to the clients, and then the clients scrambled, and my client asked me to come with, which I ended up declining. But the company failed. It failed inside of less than 1 year because there was no leadership to bring in this technology. Change is something that frightens people. And I've seen it over and over. Can anyone tell me what could have been done better? Would anyone like to? What one thing could have been done?
Let people know what's going to happen.
Message it ahead of time. Let them know this change is coming down the pipe. They might be scared, but then you can allay fears. Another thing that could have been done is they could have scanned their audience. They could have scanned these 8 women and looked for people who could cause buy-in. Me and the brave old lady. Put those computers on our desks first and let us show you the world is not coming to an end. There are other ways of send them for training before the computers come. Let them know when they come it's not going to be terrible and phase it in slowly. But because they did not make these decisions, because they just plopped those computers on the desk and said, our method is going to be sink or swim, they're going to have to adapt somehow. Well, no, they don't, and they did not. And the company ended up failing 1 year later. Now, part of the company still exists, but it has nothing to do with the business end of it. It all has to do with insurance. But the main part of the company that serviced clients ceased to exist 1 year later because of a poor leadership decision. Now, conversely, I had a wonderful thing happen right in this building. When I finished my master's degree in December of 2005, I was approached by 2 professors here. The Master's in Communication program was circling the drain, and that's the program I had just graduated from. They started to spot a trend, and a trend that needed to be corrected here. Again, we have women here who work in great jobs here, okay? They do a phenomenal job running the programs. There are 6 programs in the school, 3 undergraduate, 3 graduate. And these women take these jobs and they stay for a career. And these administrative assistants run these programs. You've got Ms. Linda running this program. She does a fantastic job. But they're here a long time. Now what happened, and this is very salient for you because we're going to talk about knowledge management, okay? A couple of years back, the administrative assistant who ran the library studies program decided to retire, and rightfully so. But not only did she retire, she moved to Florida. She retired and she was gone. They brought in, as is the policy of the School of Communication, they brought in her replacement and allowed 2 weeks for training. After that 2 weeks was over, this original administrative assistant left. What they discovered was 2 weeks wasn't long enough to train. And this poor woman who took over the job did not know what to do with herself. She was making mistakes and there was no one to go to find out what she should be doing, because what happens was, at the time, the business model in this school was every program had its own administrator. 6 administrators in the school. Those 6 administrators got to do things their way. They got to have their own filing system. They tracked the student records. Everything in this school was completely and absolutely decentralized. The administrative assistant who was running the Master's in Communication program, she decided to retire. She was here 25 years. And so the summer of 2005, she took her retirement, trained for 2 weeks with her replacement, and left. Well, her replacement, again, 2 weeks was not enough to learn because everything was decentralized. Every administrative assistant in the building, they maintained their own copy machine contracts, they ordered their own supplies from Staples. If they needed a box of paper clips, they went online and ordered paper clips from Staples. There was no supply room. They did their own budgets. These women had to maintain the budget of every program literally using green ledger paper and Quicken. There was no expertise at all in this building. No one was met. These women, jack of all trades, master of very few. Okay? Plus doing student services. Okay? And everything else having to do, they did the graduation stuff. They did everything. Well, when this person, and they got to do it their own way. So no 2 people in the building did things the same way. There was no cross processes at all. So when the administrative assistant would leave, her knowledge went with her. Well, the MCIS program now started to swirl the drain. And the woman who was running the program had no one to go to. The associate dean would come to her with the complaints from the students or the faculty or whatever, and she got defensive. And finally, by mutual decision, by December, she left. Well, they called me, and originally they had called me to ask if I would just keep the program running until they could figure out what to do. So I counter-proposed with, wait a minute, why don't we make this situation stop happening over and over and over? I said, because now you've got a bunch of women still here that are coming up to retirement age. They could all up and retire at the same time, and then the whole school's in trouble. So I proposed a completely different new business model, and I called that model Clouds of Excellence. And what we did was we got out a whiteboard and we drew clouds. And then we started looking at our audience. Okay, and our audience were the people that currently work here. We weren't going to hire more people, we couldn't do that. And I said, well, this one is good at scheduling. She loves to schedule, she loves to find the right classroom for the right professor in the right size. We're going to make her in charge of scheduling. And we started pulling people and changing their roles so that they got to do what they were best at. Not just a few things they were good at and some things that made them crazy. We ended up hiring an MBA to do all of the budgets. Okay, she is still in the dean's office, Louise Foreman. She does all the business for the school, and she does an excellent job. I remember Angela's face. We brought back Angela DiMartini back to the MCIS program. She was the retired administrative assistant. We brought her back to work with me 3 days a week. It was my job to capture her knowledge, write everything down, and I created, I had 6 months to get this done. What we wanted to do was to take all the administrators, okay, and put them in one room. We took 2 of the 6 and we gave them new jobs in the dean's office. We took 4 of the 6 and we made 2 run 3 programs each. This way, no matter who leaves, who's out sick, who's on vacation, there's somebody there who can answer a question. Then we made the processes all the same. I created a manual on how to do every single thing in the job. We took the budgets away from them and gave it to a budget expert. Angela's face, she felt like the weight of the world had been lifted off of her shoulders because she didn't have to maintain that budget anymore. She's an administrative assistant. She doesn't know anything about budgets. She's not classically trained for that. We freed up real estate. At the time, each administrative assistant had her own office. The office that I was in is now Dr. Cantor's grad lab. The thing was the size of this room. I had an office this big. For one person and some file cabinets, that's a lot of space. We freed up expensive real estate in the school, and then we put the administrative assistants, we called them the student services department, because we took everything away from them that wasn't centered on students. We made those roles in the dean's office, and now we have 4 doing 6 programs, and we captured their knowledge. I was also tasked to do a few other things. I was tasked to create a database that everyone could use across the board. I don't think that was ever implemented. I kind of had to leave very quickly one day. All of a sudden somebody's standing at my door. I was moved into a smaller office. Suddenly somebody's standing at my door going, I'm supposed to move in here? I said, I think my contract is done. And I moved the fruit of what I was able to do to the dean's office, and I left. But the good news is the student services department is downstairs where students are. And the real estate has been opened up. The lab down the hall was just in its infancy when I left. And we were able to guide these administrative assistants who did not want this change. And I will tell you, they did not want it. They saw me come near, but one of the things we did well was because we had Angela come back 3 days a week for a few months, she was able to allay their fears. She was able to go to them and say, no, Laura's doing a really good thing for the program, for the school. Don't be afraid of what's going to happen. It's going to make your life better. And she was able to pull their buy-in, okay? She was able to make them, even though they didn't want the change, it was much less painful than plunking that computer on the desk and saying, make it work. We were able to guide them, capture their knowledge, and the little fiefdoms all went away, and everything is here now, is done exactly the same way, whether it's the journalism program, the communication undergrad program, or the PhD program. All the processes now are identical. So that's a really kind of fun example on how to quietly lead it. And we took 6 months. We did not do this Monday morning, plunk, here's the computer. We took 6 months to work this change into the School of Communication. So, and I'm proud to say that I led the charge on that and didn't just maintain the MCIS program until they could figure out what to do. Now, as you know, I have written a book called Unemployed. And I'm not going to talk about the book so much. It's up to you whether you want to read it or not. I want to give you a little bit of kind of the moral to the story. How many of you in here are seniors this year? Okay, good group of you. Okay, at graduation, and I apologize for the note cards, but my remarks have been morphing since yesterday still. At graduation, you're going to hear a lot of speeches, and those speeches are peppered with platitudes, okay? And I'm going to go to the dictionary.com definition of a platitude, okay? A platitude is a flat, dull, or trite remark especially one uttered as if it were fresh or profound. And I hate platitudes. A platitude would be, this is the first day of the rest of your life. Or, whether you can or you can't, you're right. Platitudes tend to be holier than thou, and they like to think they're better than you. But they're woefully incomplete. To me, a platitude says, here, I'm going to give you this piece of cake. You eat it, now make one exactly the same for me. But I don't give you the recipe, I don't give you the list of ingredients. It doesn't give you a how to do anything. Now here's the one I want to bust up for you, because you're going to hear it at graduation. Do what you love for a living and you'll never work a day in your life. You'll hear a variation many times, especially if you go to the big graduation. In chapter 1 of my book, Unemployed, I identify what it is I love to do. But I don't do it because I can't figure out how to make a living. I love to write, but I couldn't figure it out. So instead, now this takes place, this book, what happens in this book takes place 10 months after I left here. After my success here, 10 months unemployed, I decided to listen to the employment pundits who said, take a net, cast it wide and shallow. Okay? In other words, there's nothing out there, so you better take what you can get. Well, if you cast a net wide and shallow in water, what are you going to get? You're going to get bottom feeders and bloodsuckers is what you're going to get. And that's what I got. That is what I got. After I lost the job, finally, mercifully, I knew that this platitude, do what you love to do and you'll never work a day in your life, there was something missing. There had to be a missing piece. I turned to myself and I said, face facts, Laura, face facts. You love to write, you don't have a freaking story in your head. I'm not going to write I'm not capable of writing a wonderful tale and adventure about somebody who does something amazing. I'm not a novelist. I knew I didn't want to be a journalist. It was something that didn't interest me. So I began studying the thought leaders of today. And thought leaders have, there's always been thought leaders. Aristotle, Plato, Socrates, Jesus Christ, Buddha. Every generation, some of them more quiet than others, but there are thought leaders. And today's thought leaders we can sort of loosely define as those people who hang around with Oprah Winfrey. Okay? Louise Hay, Eckhart Tolle, John Gray of the Pluto and Mars and Venus and whatever, Jack Canfield of the Chicken Soup for the Soul. These are the people who are today's thought leaders. And I began reading them. And they have a lot to say, but again, they like to drop platitude bombs. And I sit there and I read it and I go, what are you trying to tell us? They speak in great generalizations. So I decided to study greatness. Success and greatness. What do these people have that I don't? I decided to take a look at Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, and Donald Trump. And the first thing I started with, well, let's start with the basics. What about their personalities? Is it their charm? No. Okay. All three of those men vacillate from prickly to abusive. Okay, so it can't be their winning personality. But one thing I knew for sure was that all three of them love what they do. So now I'm back to the platitude again. Okay, well that verifies the platitude, but I still feel like something's missing. Then I realized, watch any of those three do a press announcement, a product launch, and they just rise up. They are passionate. They love what they are presenting. They are passionate about what they're doing. So now, while we're there, I want to bust a second platitude and then sew them together. Your thoughts become things. People will tell you, if you think it, it's going to become a thing. Well, I think that one is also flat and doesn't go far enough. I could sit here and think, oh, pile of money. Pile of big money. Pile. It's not going to materialize. I could be here all day and that pile of money is not going to fall out of the sky onto the desk. The thought does not create the thing. Although, I posit, the idea creates the thing. Now, we're going to go back to dictionary.com, and I'm going to define a thought. The product of mental activity.
Ooh.
but an idea, a plan of action and intention. With intention, you get invention. Ideas become things. Steve Jobs had an idea, and I'm holding in my hand the fruit of his idea. I had an idea, and that idea is in my hand. It's solid, it makes noise, okay? Not my thought, but my idea is now solid. Your thoughts do not become things, but your idea becomes your vision. And when you have vision, you can go after it with precision. Let's talk about desire. I ask graduating seniors all the time, what are you going to do after graduation? I want to get a job. Desire is not enough. I could all day long desire that this become an Afghan, okay? But unless I pick up the hook and the yarn and apply expertise, it's not going to turn into anything. And today you're here in this classroom learning expertise from this man. Steve Jobs had a love of technology and a passion for innovation, and he has the whole Apple legacy behind him. Bill Gates had a love of technology and a passion for keeping up with Steve Jobs, and we have Microsoft. Donald Trump has a love of real estate and a passion for money, and he has his empire. Steve Jobs even lost his role at Microsoft in a very, at Apple in a very public and humiliating way. Once the sting wore off of that humiliation, he declared, that was the best thing that could have happened to me. And the reason why it was the best thing, he just took that love and passion, the love of technology and the passion for innovation, and he pointed it toward a new industry. And now we have Pixar, the best animation studio in the world. Identify something that you're passionate about and combine it with what you love to do. A man and a woman can have sex and make a baby, but if they love one another and are passionate about their relationship, they become a family, a much higher order of things. Approach your career with love and passion. Produce ideas and vision, and it will come to fruition. I did it. I not only have this book, I have another one already written and 2 more in the idea can. Be creative. If you love IT, but you're passionate about hot air balloons, you might want to work for a hot air balloon company. You might be the next one to create that basket with that control panel that takes you further and longer than ever before. If you love accounting and you're passionate about pickles, you might want to be a CFO for Glassy. If you love logistics and helping people, you might want to work for the American Red Cross. If you like cooking and dogs, you might want to work for, you might want to create a line of pet food for animals that are ill. If you like painting and old people, you might want to become an art therapist. My husband has a love of chiropractic and a passion for helping people, and he makes a 6-figure income. The possibilities are limitless. You might say, well, no, I can't make any money doing what I love. Well, let's say I love making baby blankets. I love making baby blankets. But I can't make any money making baby blankets because they take so long and they can price it out. Nobody's going to pay that much for them. But let's just say, well, I don't care because I love it. So I'm going to start doing it. And I'm going to learn. And I'm going to go to the store and I'm going to get patterns. Then I'm going to start donating them to the hospital for newborn babies. Now I'm going to go take an adult school class. And in adult school, I learned from a master teacher. Okay? And then I'm in a room with like-minded people who are making baby blankets too. And after the class is over, we form a club. And out of that club, we're making baby blankets and we're sending them over to Robert Wood Johnson. And the club grows and grows. And finally, the people in the club say, listen, we love doing this, but it's costing a lot of money. Could we maybe raise some money? So now I'm a nonprofit. And we're raising money to make baby blankets. And we're making baby blankets, and now it's spreading throughout New Jersey, and it spreads throughout the country, okay? And before you know it, I'm making a 6-figure income as the executive director of the baby blanket organization, okay? Then it spreads worldwide. People are making baby blankets. Now we've got a booty division, we've got a hat division. It's grown into this great thing. So many people are crocheting baby blankets, the crime rate drops. And then I get the Nobel Peace Prize. It is possible. It is possible. As a matter of fact, I do combine my love and passion. You think love and passion cannot work? I love, obviously, to crochet. Love it. Makes me happy, keeps me occupied. I am passionate about football. I am the big Rutgers football fan. I am the big Giant football fan, although not lately. And I did combine that love and that passion together. And I make football blankets. I made one for Eric LeGrand when he got sick and sent it to the Kessler Institute. So you tell me crocheting and football don't go together? If I can put crocheting and football together, you can identify your love and your passion and put them together and make a really great career. Greatness and success always begins with love and passion. I overheard Dr. Wintram talking about Lou Gerstner when I was standing outside the door. And I learned about Lou Gerstner and Rudolph Giuliani in this class. Lou Gerstner had a love of big business and a passion for saving big businesses. And we have, to this day, IBM and American Express. Rudolph Giuliani loved making things run well, and he had a passion for New York City, and he was the hero of 9/11. Combine what you love and what you're passionate about, and you will never work a day in your life. Cast your net into deep, cool waters to attract the beautiful fish. Indulge regularly in your love and passion, and your ideas and vision will flow into your life. Thank you. You can find me on Twitter and Facebook and my website, and thank you for having me.
Very good. Very good.
See, I told you it would fit.
No, it's fine. Any questions, any discussion? Obviously answered all their questions.
That's what I'm here for.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Clean up the mess.
Okay. Well, I think we've gotten some